We should be
Like siblings are
we should be more
really
specific.
Oh,
Unless,
So like,
so are you gonna?
not yet.
Not yet?
So not
I
yet.
don't know.
Well, they didn't even tell us if it was actually a
So,
teacher or not. They said it was
I'm-
just
I'm
someone
okay
who goes
with it.
through
It means
multiple
something, but,
classrooms.
Oh
And
man,
I
that'd be
was
the real
like,
nightmare path. Take
Okay.
that lunch lady, like.
Right, so I don't know.
I think he obviously has something in mind.
Alright.
So.
I didn't see the resolution to lower the temperature to
In the room.
No. But I guess that's beyond the council's authority.
That's, are you cold?
No, I'm saying outside.
Oh.
I just don't.
Oh, you want that? You want us to do something like that?
I don't like that.
That's all right.
You
You get to give your solicitor's report. You could just like mention it.
It's hot.
See if anybody salutes, you know?
I think Sherry's got you covered right now, right? No. Oh, it is 6:30. Everybody stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Lupton, if you call the roll.
Mayor Carney,
Here.
Mr. Rucker,
Here.
Giano,
Here.
Hyman,
Here.
Hine,
Here.
Mr. Reed,
Here.
Mr. Terry,
Here.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's council meeting for August 23rd, 2021? Motion to approve.
Second.
Terry,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Hine,
Yes.
Heineman,
Yes.
Giano,
Yes.
Rucker,
Here, yes.
And motion, is there a motion to approve the council meeting minutes for the August 9th, 2021 meeting? As amended? Yeah.
So,
Motion.
Right, I'm sorry, I just given Haley a little edit, and she agreed with it, and so just to let you know that's in there.
Motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Rucker,
abstain.
Giano,
Yes.
Heineman,
Yes.
Hine,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
And do we have any visitors this evening that have signed up? Okay. Moving out of the visitor section into reports. Just letting everybody know that this Thursday, the Lions Club is having their annual live auction that helps to benefit the community, and it will be at 6 p.m. at Pastime Park, and there's quite a few neat items that you can go and bid on. I'm going to be meeting with staff later in the week to discuss fall and Christmas time events and getting a timeline of that out. And just following up with Mr. Cahall on some questions that citizens have been asking. I know the signs for the pilot project, they are in and will be going up, I believe, tomorrow. And that's all on my end. Ms. Sonnet, Finance Director.
Yeah, I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Chief McKee.
Yeah, thank you. Just a reminder that the Uptown Car Show is this Saturday in the Uptown from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Then also a reminder that the Madison County Safety Expo is also this Saturday, I think from 10 o'clock till 2 p.m. Sergeant Brayler's going to go there and represent Plain City. The police department will be hosting diversity training next Monday. I've invited the West Jefferson Police Department to also attend that. It's going to be here at the police department. And then we've received several applications for the admin assistant position, and I will be scheduling an interview sometime after August 30th, once all the interviews are in. Or not interviews, applications are in. And then lastly, I'd just like to congratulate K-9 Officer Hertzinger for celebrating his 5th year of service here at the police department. And and also K-9 Andor for their dedicated service. That's all I have this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And if I could just add in that this Saturday is our Ohio Department of Natural Resources Scenic River
Explore the creek.
Explore the Creek, thank you, from 9 to noon, and that is open to residents as well. So I don't know if anybody from council is planning on,
So, how, can we go for like a shorter amount of time?
I think it's a
Alright.
drop-in
Okay,
type.
drop in and
Yeah.
just right there at the
Yeah.
park?
At McKittrick Park.
Perfect, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
I'll be there. It's my daughter's birthday party, so I can only go for half hour, 45.
I think that's a good amount of time, so,
Breakfast that mornings.
oh, so, okay, you're out.
Sure, sure.
I'm gonna be in Toledo.
Okay.
Sorry.
I could probably make it after 11. but-
After 11.
What time are you gonna try and get there, Jody?
I
Early?
think I'm gonna try to go
I'm gonna try to
early.
do
Yeah.
9, like,
Yeah,
so
me
I
too,
can be done,
because
get
I have
paid-
to have
paid
the
for
car
it.
show all day. So.
Yes. I want to put that in there. I forgot that that's the Saturday. Thank you. Mr. Cathall, Village Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. As reported to council a little bit earlier, the notice of bids for the old municipal property should be in the paper this Thursday. That advertises per statute for at least 5 weeks, so we're slated for a bid opening on the 30th of September for that. Surprisingly, out of the blue, the developer for the Hamlet project there on South Chillicothe, just south of Madison Square, filed unannounced for their final development plan, so staff's in the process of reviewing that. We have a meeting with the developer, I believe either tomorrow or Wednesday, to discuss some things preliminarily. Our pre-construction meeting on the Uptown parking lot is this Friday. The contractor's well underway in ordering some structures and getting shop drawings in and approved, and we hope to see actually some equipment sneak out there, hopefully within the next 5 to 10 business days. Tonight, as you'll see on your agenda, we have a contract award request for the streetscape project, and we're already ahead of time trying to coordinate a pre-construction, once you folks approve that. We did close on the property there on Jackson Street this past week. You may have seen our crews cut down some of the kudzu out there, and we'll be making some more improvements and trying to clean up the site here in the interim. Also, a hot topic around town is we have camera crews cleaning and videotaping our sanitary lines in our older parts of town. Got some initial inspection reports this morning. We're sifting through those. Smoke testing also started today. Those crews are actually making really great progress, and we've already identified some areas where we can very cheaply and quickly reduce some I&I already. This Wednesday, we have our initial budget kickoff meeting with jointly with the CIP and the Personnel Finance Committees. Along with that, too, we are on track to have a draft compensation plan update for an initial just share and walk through, and then also provide that to council at your work session in September for folks to mull that over and review it. We are out to bid on the north line out of the water treatment plant. That project's supposed to open bids next week. To date, though, we've only had a couple people pull plans, so we're out there beating the bushes to make sure that we get some competitive bidding. And then finally, you may have noticed in the Friday letter, we had quite the sinkhole issue over on Park Street. Our crews, along with one of our contractors, worked into the evening hours Friday to get that fixed. We had a failure of the sanitary sewer line there, some unexpected maintenance, so to speak. But that line has been fixed, and we appreciate everyone's patience on that street as we had to close down for a couple days. So with that, Mayor, I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cathall.
Mr. Cal,
Yeah.
question. I keep seeing all these things about sewer backups with the sewer cleaning. Are there no backflow check valves on any of these systems?
So on the camera, so we've had a couple of issues reported that may have been caused by the crew doing the camera inspection. So as ahead of them sending down the camera, down these lines. They are jetting them and cleaning them out, so we can assess things better. From what I can tell and talking to a couple folks that I have talked to, it seems as if there was an issue with some of that water going back up into their sewer laterals. It does not seem like as if it was reaching into the domestic sewer line as much as they may have had taps into their lateral that were feeding into like their sump pump drain or their foundation drain. That was more of a direct connect that wouldn't have had the trap in it or anything else ahead of time, but we're still looking into that.
Yeah, that's one way to find them.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's an unfortunate way to find issues, yes.
I think the one I saw today was on Gay Street. It said it was in her washing machine. So I'm not sure how that would end up.
Yeah, yeah, I'll look into that. I wasn't aware of that one. I'll follow up more.
Maybe people should call the village and not post their
Yeah,
complaints on
I
Facebook.
was curious because it seemed to me like it would make sense to have some sort of check valve in the line somewhere, so you don't, if the system becomes overpressurized, it doesn't blow back feed up through your
toilet or whatever.
Your toilet. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Because it seems just an air trap doesn't seem sufficient to stop an overpressure from the backside.
Yeah, no, I'll investigate it more. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there.
Mr. Cahill,
Yes, sir.
road salt is in
Yes, sir.
your weekly report.
Yes, sir.
You got your delivery
That we did.
this week. Was that's the total for the year, I assume, that you're all set now? This is paid with this year's budget dollars?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The reason I'm asking is because I'm looking at the 22 budget and road salt is in like 3 different places, and I'm trying to figure out what the actual cost is. So we haven't paid for that yet, or do we know the cost of it?
I'm gonna look at Renee. It was
I can send her an email.
Yeah, I want to say it was the neighborhood of 23,000 or so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We bought less salt this year than we had previously because we had a decent stockpile in inventory. So we took delivery of a smaller than usual shipment. We believe that'll get us.
I noted
Through the
that
cold
last year
months.
we had some $62,000 of road salt payments.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about,
Well-
the extra supply then? or-
I don't know if we spent that much.
road salt, maybe between water plant salt.
Yeah, you may have seen that number with.
Yeah, it was
Salt
under
from the
road
treatment
salt, so
plant.
maybe that's why I'm getting confused.
Yeah,
It
maybe,
was just
yeah.
salt. All right, fine, we can get that straightened out. One other question.
Yes, sir.
The Uptown parking lot
Yes, sir.
schedule, okay. Is that this Friday coming that you expect to get that?
Yes, the
nailed down?
contractor should hand me not only a signed contract and a bond, but should also be handing us a schedule.
Okay, so, and just so I can make a note here, when would we expect to address the lighting issue in the parking lot? Because you said that was maybe going to be delayed.
It's part of the project.
It's part of the
So
project, so.
The only thing, so under the contract with that contractor, they are on the hook to have everything completed by the end of the year, if not
Okay,
sooner.
good. That's,
Except we did allow for a allowance for substantial completion on the light fixtures, only because there's very few manufacturers out there that are long lead time. So what they have to provide us is that, let's say the manufacturer says it's gonna be, 15 to 17 weeks before they get them. So be it, we want documentation that they went ahead and placed their order immediately.
okay,
So the reason why there may be a delay is because they just drug their feet and didn't order the lights. No, they're on order and they're coming.
okay, thank you.
And on the Uptown parking lot, what kind of timeline, once we have it from the contractor, can we get that to the residents and
Yes.
businesses around?
Yes, yeah, so the goal of Friday's meeting is to get that schedule, look at how they're gonna phase it, in terms of means and methods. Once we have that information, our next step would be to not only communicate that to everyone in general, but also the specific neighboring impacted property owners and businesses. Because, honestly, whether it's the greenery, Lovejoy's Plaza, Buckeye Brass or whatnot, some of their employees and patrons may have to park elsewhere temporarily. We're also working with the property owner just north of the Buckeye Brass to help a little bit of backyard drainage issues. They're gonna tie into one of the new catch basins, so there's a lot of coordination work to be done.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. President Pro Tem, Mr. Rucker.
Next, work session is next Wednesday, 6:30. Please have any items for work session submitted by Monday evening. Does Monday evening work okay for you? Okay. And I'll actually be here for that.
Okay. Mr. Lafayette is not with us, but
He's not.
yes.
Mr. Holtis is here.
Here,
He's-
yes.
Nothing to report, although I know Mr. Lafayette circulated proposed legislation. I don't know if you want that on the agenda now or just with that.
It is.
Okay. So that, to the extent there is that report, we can have discussion and proceed.
Okay. Thank you. Capital improvements.
As Mr. Cowhall said, we will be meeting here on the 25th at 7, joint meeting with Personnel and Finance.
Thank you, Ms. Giamo.
Here.
Yeah, because we're gonna be in there and you guys are we out here and you guys
think
are
we're
in
in
there? Okay.
BZA.
No meetings.
And then we did not have an August planning and zoning meeting, so our next one will be, I believe, September 15th. Parks and Recreation. Personnel and Finance.
We are having a meeting finally on Wednesday this week, so we got a pretty full agenda, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Reed, Fire Board.
John will be out of the state, so I will be attending the next fire board meeting, which is Thursday, September 2nd at 6:30 at the firehouse. Nothing new to report from the last meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Pine. Design Review Board.
Our next meeting is this Wednesday, 6:30. I guess we'll be in here since the other group will be over there. And we do have a couple of applications to hear.
Thank you, Ms. Rucker. Rules Committee, Mr. Reed.
Yeah, we haven't had a meeting, we don't have a meeting planned, and the minutes are probably gonna show the same thing as they showed for this meeting, that it's a difficult circumstance to be able to develop a package of rules for council without, under the handicap of having to have a full-blown committee meeting. So I decided, unless the solicitor doesn't think this is a viable plan, to resign from the Rules Committee, which will enable me to communicate with the other two members freely without violating open meeting laws. So if anybody has a comment or concern or objection to that, then the open meeting rules are pretty straightforward. You know, committee members can't. But as the Charter Commission did, they had a facilitator and someone who actively contributed to the charter development. So I'm not saying I would be a facilitator, but I would be in that similar kind of role of being able to do some work, distribute it to the committee members, take questions, respond to issues, and edit and do a lot of things that we're just not able to do easily with the Rules Committee.
So, general question, why isn't the Rules Committee just acting like any other committee? Why aren't you guys posting meetings, having meetings, putting on meetings? Like, I guess I don't understand why it's not just operating like the planning and zoning or the personnel and finance. I know not everyone wants another meeting, but we could circumvent all of this by just being out, and that's what the Sunshine Law is about. Why don't we just follow the rules for the Rules Committee?
Well, we are following the rules, first of all.
I know what I'm
I'll
saying,
get the idea.
but you're saying.
I understand what your question is, and let me respond to it, that there is so much discussion usually involved with developing a rules package. I mean, I anticipate when the rules committee brings it to council, it will get reviewed probably more than most other packages that come to council. And so we'd like to be able to handle those, and there could actually be, depending on how active the committee members are, daily emails on rules questions and whether this is appropriate for council. How do we want to write this up, kind of stuff. So, and if you wait until you have a meeting, then you're raising the issues, okay, that you're asking your questions and having your discussions, and then you have to go away and develop responses to those questions and issues. And then you have to wait till the next meeting before you can really do anything about it. All of the rigmarole that's involved with having official committee meetings of council is not contributing anything to anybody that's helpful in this process. So that's my thinking on it, for what it's worth.
I mean, I'm not on the rules committee, but we wrote an entire charter that way. So that thing was much longer than I hoped the rules are. So we were able to do it. It's your guys' committee, you guys do what you want, but it just seems like I feel like there's a way to do this that's just the
Easier.
normal way. But if you would like to resign, I'm fine with that. I mean,
Yeah,
Probably not get input from.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why do you want to resign?
The legal input.
so that I can communicate
That's
freely
allowed.
with the other members without violating open meeting rules.
But you're
Okay.
still a council member.
But that doesn't make any
Well,
difference for the
let's-
rules committee.
As you said, if it's
Yeah,
amenable,
right.
yeah, so let's get his opinion.
It's an interesting question, an interesting proposal. My fundamental concern is the purpose behind the resignation. If the purpose behind the resignation is to circumvent the sunshine law, then from this chair, the answer is no. Because that defeats the purpose of the sunshine law. I'm also imagining, and I'll ask for the insights of anyone on council. The Rules Committee, I believe, presupposes 3 members, right? So even with a resignation, there would have to be a replacement for Mr. Reed, right? I wouldn't have, fundamentally, subject to further research, Mr. Reed communicating with that newly comprised body of the replaced 3rd member. But so long as that committee then meets and discusses proposals in an open meeting, that's fine. But just resigning for the purpose of then submitting recommendations to a 2-member committee
Yeah, the significant,
with, and I'm not suggesting anything nefarious, with an intent even couched in terms of a resignation of circumventing the sunshine laws. That's not selling in Peoria, not this Peoria.
yeah, I get it, it sounds nefarious. It's really just a logistic efficiency. If council doesn't want that situation, I'm perfectly fine with it. We'll schedule the meetings. We'll schedule as many meetings as we can. I'm assuming that's probably going to be 1 a month, and we'll get the work done at the pace that we can get it done. I had hoped for a little better progress with it, but it hasn't happened, so we'll take on so I'm assuming your council is probably with the solicitor here in terms of where they want to go with this.
Again, it just sounds weird, right? It like the whole proposal, not just following like the normal sunshine laws feels weird to me, but again, I understand your issue, right? Another meeting, develop a big thing. Again, it's your guys' committee. Maybe a very open to the public 4-hour work session sounds terrible, but maybe that's how you guys hammer it out. But I mean, we had to do this for charter where literally at one point we were meeting every week because it was the only way to get that whole document done in time, and it was not fun. And I understand you guys have a lot of other commitments, so this is why I'm kind of saying whatever works best for you guys, but it just seems like not a lot of good ways around it.
No, Can we set the next meeting an hour before work session next
We
week?
can
Would
do-
that work?
Sure, we can do whatever you like. I'm pretty flexible with my schedule. We can progress from there. I'm fine with that.
So let's go September 1st at 5.
Okay.
At least it'll get us.
Or is it August 30th? That's the work session.
September
September
1st,
1st,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, I had written.
Because I know after the one meeting that we had to cancel and then
Right.
it's been busy, but
Yeah.
September, let's try that and at least get something established.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good to me.
Any other questions on
If
reports?
anybody else wants to join the rules committee,
No.
then,
Who's on it? Is
we
it?
have room
It's
for one
Miss
more,
Yama, myself, and Mr. Reed.
Okay.
then we have room for one more council member,
I don't
on the committee. But,
know.
think
so
you'd be
I just thought I'd throw that.
Yeah, we'd be in a quorum.
Ignore it, okay?
Okay. Moving our reports into old business. Second reading resolution 28-2021, a resolution authorizing and directing the village administrator to enter into a pre-annexation agreement with Norman A. Beachy and Lois F. Beachy trustees.
Motion to approve resolution 2020-21. You don't need a third, right? This is a resolution, so we only need two. So yeah, motion to approve 2021.
Second.
Terry,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Heineman,
No.
Yama,
Yes.
Rucker,
No.
Moving out of old business into new business, a motion to approve the liquor license notice to the legislative authority, transfer of ownership to Mi Sombrero Express Incorporated.
If I remember the last one of these, we don't have to do anything we don't want.
No, this is.
Oh, that's, okay.
So, yeah, under this one, council, is that the Department of Commerce's Liquor Control Board has sent us notification that this business is looking to transfer in a liquor permit. You have the opportunity with their notice to ask for a public hearing or the like, or if you just take no action tonight, that's perfectly fine as well, and the state will continue to process the transfer.
So what else do you know about this Mi Sombrero?
So we,
transferred from it to.
So it was weird because it had the address.
A white
was
hot
weird, yeah.
address.
yeah, so there's a provision with the Liquor Control Board that in jurisdictions that have met or have met the quota for a particular precinct or area, there is an option, it's called a Trex permit, that they can, under certain conditions, obtain a liquor permit from another jurisdiction and bring it in for that new business coming in. In this case, this is what is being proposed. The Department of Commerce is, as they would with any liquor permit transfer in town or renewal, they give the local legislative body an opportunity to say yea or nay, do you want this to be further reviewed before they process it?
So it would be like a mule for this company, and where is it?
It's, the address is like,
Yeah, it's,
Here,
it's right here at the
Like
strip
here.
center there, that's a new restaurant coming in, yes.
Oh, there's a new restaurant.
Yeah.
Mexican
Okay,
restaurant,
so
yes.
it's for them, and they would sell
Yeah,
alcohol. right?
Exactly.
That makes it a lot different.
yeah, so in front of you tonight is either to make a motion to say yes, direct me and Ms. Lumpton to notify the state that you in fact want to have a hearing, or you can take no action tonight and the state will interpret that as there is no issue at a local level with this transfer in.
I see no reason that we would want a public hearing. I can't imagine any of my friends and neighbors having an objection to it. There's no schools like really close to it. And we actually, if we're ever going to consider a DORA, I think that's within the appropriate distance to be included as the fourth liquor license, which would allow consideration of a DORA. I don't know, we'd have to check that out, but I'm fine with it, make a long story short.
No objection here.
Same.
Hearing no objection, moving on.
Do we want to approve it tonight?
You don't have
You
to
don't have
approve
to.
it.
Pardon me?
We don't
They
have
said,
to approve
yeah,
it.
No
yeah,
action.
we did one of
is-
these
we
before.
approve.
Okay, sorry.
That was my mistake of asking for a motion, so you don't need that. First reading resolution 29-2021, a resolution authorizing the village administrator to accept the bid of and execute an agreement with Wolf Creek Contracting for the Plain City Uptown Streetscape project and requesting a waiver of the second reading.
Motion to waive second reading on resolution 29-2021.
Second.
Let me just have a comment here. When it's a place to have a comment, it's not really related to the motion, it's about the project. But I was in Worcester last week and noticed that they had brick sidewalks, just something like what we're talking about. And they sold, I'm assuming they sold it. What people do is they imprint the bricks with names and dates or stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Are we interested in doing that with our bricks in the Uptown? There's a lot of history and a lot of historic folks that live in the village might be interested in buying a brick on the streetscape. I just mentioned it because I was up there and I saw it and I said, oh. So.
I think that might be a good idea for when the flat iron is redone.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what we had discussed a while back.
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's just keep that in mind, if you will.
There's a motion and a second to waive the second reading.
Terry,
Yes.
Pine,
Yes.
Gianna,
Yes.
Rucker,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes,
Heineman,
Yes.
And motion to approve resolution 29-2021.
Second.
This does not have to be done as an emergency.
No, sir, resolutions become effective immediately.
Oh,
Heineman,
that's right.
Yes.
Reed,
yes,
Rucker,
Yes.
Gianna,
Yes.
Pine,
Yes.
Terry,
First reading resolution 30-2021, a resolution authorizing and directing the village administrator to execute a community reinvestment area abatement agreement for the property located at 160 West Main Street. First reading resolution 31-2021, a resolution authorizing and directing the village administrator to execute a community reinvestment area abatement agreement for the property located at 156 West Main Street. First reading ordinance 25-2021, an ordinance to approve current replacement pages to the Plain City codified ordinances and declaring an emergency.
okay.
Can we get a little background on this one?
So this one is so every year we have a firm, Walter Green, that collects and codifies all the new ordinances that have changed code sections and the like. On top of that, they also monitor changes in the revised code and state statute for changes that impact some of our code sections. And so over the last year or so, and you usually see this in earnest after the state passes its budget, its biennial budget, because they also insert a lot of different rules and provisions and the like. They all get snuck in. And so on the advice of that legal counsel, they're recommending that we immediately adopt some of these codified changes so that we are retroactively compliant with state statute on some of the things that we have in our code. Some of the things that you're asking, change or whatnot will be things like if there are things that they've changed the penalties for certain criminal offenses that it used to be a $500 penalty, now it's a $1,000 fine or 30 days in jail. This kind of stuff would cascade into our ordinances, and so that if, in that case, our police department were to charge somebody that were found guilty, there's no ambiguity as to actually what the sentence is one way or another. That's just one example.
And a lot of these look like those types of things.
Yes.
Is there anything in here of consequence outside of sentencing guidelines or, penalties or?
Yeah, nothing that really jumped out. I think there might be a few definitional sections, or what you'll see in our ordinance too is we may reference a particular revised code section that now has been amended or changed, so we need to reference the new numbering system that the legislature may have changed it to. So they may have reworked or deleted a certain section and put it someplace else.
Perfect. And then just one other question,
Yes,
is,
sir.
Mr. Reed, I saw in here solicitation was on there, we've been talking about solicitation, this doesn't change our current solicitation rules, right? Cool. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure what the emergency is, number one. And I'd like to ask, this is a pretty long list of ordinances, chapters that's gonna be changed. I'm looking at this, that normally a lot of this is passed through because we've passed the ordinances here already and dealt with them, so there shouldn't be any surprises in there. And so any changes that are being made beyond the resolutions or ordinances that we passed in order to comply with revised code, has any of that been done to your knowledge, that just changes have been, wording changes have been implemented in our ordinances without the participation of council in order to comply with revised code? Is that question clear?
I'm not following you.
Well, okay, well, it says that in order to comply with, to ensure that our ordinances are compliant with Ohio state law, okay, have any changes been made to the ordinances that we don't know about that are strictly to apply to, or is that just wording? Strictly to be made to comply?
Yeah,
with
that's just wording.
Okay, so to your knowledge, none of that's been done, it's
No,
just
this
a
is-
compilation
Yeah,
of,
most of these, like I said, are either changes in certain penalty provisions that we reference in our code, or revised code chapter and section renumbering and rewording, so that, you know, if we referenced a title, I don't know, or chapter 2921, and that section's gotten moved to 2922 now,
okay.
you know, because then that avoids the problem of someone gets charged under, you know, a certain offense, we charge them and the judge looks at it and goes, well, that doesn't exist, you know, and we have to, you know, deal with that.
I think to me, I think I share Mr. Reed's question here, which is, in the future,
Yes.
I think I would like to be provided with kind of a before and after. This, we don't really get that, unless I'm missing in the Dropbox, I don't really have that. And I think it's, you know, so we don't miss something, you know, this is new to me, you know, so I kind of share Mr. Reed's comment here on like, it'd be nice if we had a little more like, it was $1,000, now it's $2,000, now it just makes me feel better, and I trust that the village is doing that, but I think in the future, if we do things like this, it'd be nice if we provided that stuff. And I'm sure the Eagles looked over all that, I get all that, but
You
for
want like
me,
a comp dog.
yeah, just
Yeah.
check the last box, and I think that's what Mr. Reed
Yeah,
has.
no, I would.
I
agree.
don't see it here, so it's kind of hard for me to say, I hope it's, you know, 500 to 1,000, but I don't actually have that from
Yeah. No, I will make a note of that to make sure that.
And frequently,
everything does that.
in the ordinances, it's notated when it was amended or edited or whatever. I'm not sure what the status of all of these are. If they're all gonna be notated, any change that goes in because of this process is gonna be notated with the
It
date.
would be. Yeah,
Okay,
it
so
would-
that
it would
would
reference,
include
it would reference the
That
ordinance
something-
number and
something
date
changed
of
there.
that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cowell, appreciate that.
If I might offer another suggestion, or
Sure.
another example of a change. I believe it was 18 months ago or so, the legislature revised the Limited Liability Act, Limited Liability Corporation. It used to be designated as Chapter 1705 in the revised code. With the amendment to the entire statute, it's now 1706. So to the extent of the ordinance references an Ohio Limited Liability Company formed pursuant to revised code 1705, that's outdated. It should properly reflect chapter 1706. So that's another
Yeah.
just example, but.
And I'm not
the
saying
point-
it's not all. it is.
Yeah,
I'm
the
just
point
like-
that you make is
Yeah.
terrific.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it'd be nice in the future if we just could see like we're actually, it literally said 05, 06, I was like, of course, that makes total
Yeah.
sense.
No. Hear you loud and clear on that one.
Okay. Okay, so the other question is, what's the emergency here? And it's just in principle.
Yes, I mean, the declaration of emergency is obviously at your folks' discretion and at your
Okay.
prerogative.
I tend to there's some legislative thing that Mr. Rucker says he will never do. Oh, it's eminent domain. I have the same feeling about declaring an emergency. If there's no emergency, then probably we shouldn't be declaring emergencies on anything, unless you have any kind of modest
These are
reason.
these are police actions.
It's the time.
It's, you know, if somebody gets off because our code isn't updated,
That's an issue.
Yet, this code has not been updated for almost a year, and without it being an emergency for anyone. So it's just a net. I would prefer not to do it as an emergency. But, you know, that's my preference.
Again, I understand what you're saying, Evan, but again, you get this timing issue, right? So if something happens and we're like, oh, it's because we didn't want to declare emergency, it kind of seems silly on our part, but I do understand like giving the due diligence to a time, so I'm okay with it probably either way. I mean, I'm comfortable with whatever.
But this is also recent actions from the budget that came out 2 months ago, correct?
Yeah.
That went
one of
into
the
effect
primary
July
drivers,
1.
Basically, yeah, I mean, it's the driver.
So I think that's kind of the emergency is the new stuff came out July 1. And now if we don't implement it, we could, like Ms. Pine said, be liable.
And let's leave it like it is. You know, it's just my feeling about it
I hear ya.
for what it's worth.
So is there a motion?
yeah, motion to, waive second reading of ordinance 25-2021.
Second.
Terry,
Yeah.
Pine,
Yes.
Giammo,
Yes.
Rucker,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Heineman,
Yes.
And motion to pass ordinance 25-2021 as an emergency.
Second.
Reed,
Yes.
Heineman,
Yes.
Rucker,
Yes.
Pine,
Yes.
Giammo,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
First reading, ordinance 26-2021, an ordinance amending village ordinance sections 1327.10 and 1327.11 concerning the Uptown Plain City Historic District.
Okay. I have notes on this ordinance that I won't bring up tonight. But for one, in 1327.11, the appeal process, paragraph A, the wording has slightly changed, and I think probably going in the right direction. And it is concerning who can do an appeal. And it's, the old wording was any person aggrieved by the decision could appeal it. The new wording is the same as that, plus any officer of the village affected by the decision of the DRB, which potentially is a significant change to who can appeal the decisions of the DRB. And like I said, I think that's going the right direction. Had Mr. Lafayette been here, I just asked him briefly what he thought about that and what the explanation of affected means, because I have no clue what that word means. Any person affected by, if it, you know, like if that gives me a stomachache, then I can appeal it. So that's why I want to get the next meeting as an explanation of what that terminology means, any person affected by.
So clearly, we have a work session next, right? Can we make sure that, because I agree, we should talk about this more before we vote on it, and we don't need to vote on it this evening. I would recommend that when we build the agenda, we put this, the discussion of this, I don't know if we need to put it with it, but I think there are conversations we had. I read it, I looked at the changes, but I knew we weren't voting tonight as well, so not to belabor tonight's meeting, I think it's a very obvious work session discussion.
That was the thought and intention, was just present something tonight,
Yep.
and then know we had a work session here in a week or so.
So that section was not changed at all. That section, only the highlighted sections are changed. So A 1327.11 A is what's in the code today. I just looked it up.
Okay,
It
so that
says
wording's
exactly
already
the same.
there?
Yes.
Affected by,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I made that mistake because
Yes.
it caught me by surprise because
Yeah.
it never registered with me.
Yeah,
before.
usually with code changes, I mean, I review
So,
the stuff
in any
that,
case,
only the highlighted things or underlined
Right.
things or things that are
Okay, thank
changing,
you.
not,
Thank you for
not
that.
things that are already there.
I still am puzzled by that phrase terminology and would kind of like an explanation, considering the context and the culture surrounding this thing.
Again, we can talk about this at work session, but this is, when I read this, this was sticking with kind of our guidance of, let's just change basically from the application to the hearing is what I was kind of gauging this as a change of. So that's still, yeah, okay.
Mr. Lafayette drafted this for your consideration as one package. I know there were kind of two topics there, but the thought was to provide this to you folks, allow you to absorb it at a first reading stage, knowing we have a work session where you folks can kind of comb through a little bit more detail and decide whether you want that for a second reading at a future date.
Now, do we have to have a hearing on this?
No.
Yeah,
So-
I think it addresses what
Yeah.
we discussed. So, But I'm fine with just putting it
The
on the
only
work session
thing that
agenda.
possibly could make us want to vote on it tonight is that there's a DRB meeting between now and then. That's the only reason we'd want it, but
I don't
I think
see,
we wait till the work session.
yeah, I
Yeah,
don't, because even if we
you
passed
rush-
it, we'd
you
have
rush
to,
things and get
Yeah,
it all.
I would rather wait too. I agree. All right, we're all in agreement.
So what's the status? You said you have 2 new applications coming up?
It was 2 or 3. I was on vacation when I got my
Well,
packet,
my
so-
question is, if we change the ordinance in midstream, and I'm really thinking about the 60 days, or the 60 days, those applications under the old rule for 60 days or under the new rule?
Yeah, it'd be at time of filing. So
Pardon me?
The
whatever
old rule.
procedure was in place at time of
Yeah.
I
filing.
mean, they've already filed.
Yeah.
So
So
it would be, if
they're
we
under
change
the
it
old
tonight,
rule
yeah.
60 days.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be that
Yes.
way if we change it tonight.
Okay, so we're moving this item to work session, and have no other discussion items this evening listed. So that concludes, and we will be going into executive session and not coming back with any decision. So do I have a motion to, we are about to enter into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22G3, conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
so moved.
Second.
Heineman,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Rucker,
Yes.
Giano,
Yes.
Pine,
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.